All right, we're going to do a quick rundown on installing a Raychem RayClick power connection. That's where you connect building wire to heating cable. The power connection is intended to be mounted on the pipe, but up on this stand that's provided so that the insulation can run underneath. When I position the stand, let's say there was a wall here, or this is where the pipe started, put the power connection away from the start and then point back towards the start and head out. That way you don't have a dead area between here and here where the cable's not covering. Or say we had one circuit here and another one starting there, the heating cable would always be on the pipe. Electrician would bring flex conduit and bring this up to a junction box, termination made in the junction box, and then wiring run back to a control. So we're going to go over putting one of these together. So when it comes in a package like this. This happens to be a RayClick PC power connection. There is also a RayClick PS, which has one power, two heating cables out. There's also a PT, so 1, 2, 3 heating cables out. It's intended for multiple type heating cable. This is the Raychem HWatt for domestic hot water. This gets different instruction path than the freeze protection cable XL Trace, which might be orange or black, or Ice Stop, which is black, or even Raysol, the floor heating product. They look more like this. Now, rather than making a heat shrink connection where you strip everything back and put heat shrinks on, this uses an insulation displacement connector. So we'll go through what that entails. So when you open the package, you want to be a little bit careful. First of all, we want to get the instructions. We have 2 cable ties that allow us to mount the stand to the pipe. So the cable tie would go on here, and just like we saw here, cable tie, stand. And then you take out your power connection. See this little piece of cardboard right here? This is on here for a reason. Take this apart. There's this little metal braid clip. Sometimes that gets loose from here and is somewhere in the package, but this is very important for establishing your ground path. So you want to make sure that you keep that. You also get an end seal. With a single power connection, you get a single end seal. With a double, you would get 3 end seals, and with a triple, with a double, you get 2 end seals. With a triple, or a T, you would get 3 end seals. So we're going to set that to the side. You also get lube. This HWatt heating cable is much bigger than the freeze protection cable, so it takes a little bit more effort. Raychem provides this lube. I find that in the summer when it's hot and humid, this lube does not pass the insulation resistance test, so I do not use that. So let's do a connection. I'm going to do it on our HWatt cable. We'll put this to the side. We're going to have a look here. Here's the 3 types: single, double, triple, or power connection, power splice, power T. Actually use these instructions the first few times that you do it, because it is important that you do it to the right lengths. Primarily, you want to make sure you have the right length. And if you don't happen to have measuring tape, it's marked right here on the box. So we take our heating cable and line it right up there. We want to cut it back to that distance, which is 3 1/8. So I'm going to make a cut around here. Go easy. I say if you can feel the braid, you went too far. HWatt is a little more forgiving because it has a much thicker jacket. We're going to make a cut down, I don't know if you can see that, down the length of the thing, and I press a little harder when I get to the very end so that I can get this started like this. So we'll stick our knife in there, just break that. I didn't cut all the way through, but once you get it started, it peels back pretty easily. We take that outer jacket off. All right, so we've removed our outer jacket, this step here. Now we're going to put that braid clip onto the cable. Happens to have a more square and a more round end. I don't know that it matters, but I put the round end out and I hold this on here like this. And we're going to loosen that up a little bit. See how it starts to pucker? But this is where it gets different. HWAT only is this path right here. If you're doing the XL trace, the orange one or the black one, you go this way. That's because HWAT has this extra aluminum jacket. Because this braid is so heavy, they want us to take a little bit of it off. So we're going to remove, I like telephone scissors for this, we're going to remove about 1 inch of the end of that braid there. So I just snipped it straight down about 1 inch, and then we're going to remove it, make a big old mess, and it does like to bite you. All right, so we remove that. We're going to push our braid back over. HWAT, it's very hard to get that to roll over on its own, so I end up just unraveling the braid. Get that all the way back, and we want that to lay very flat, because the flatter that is, the easier it is to slide into the kit, or conversely, the harder it is if you don't lay it flat. Now, this aluminum layer is for protection at high temperature. So we need to remove that, because otherwise our insulation displacement skewers will go through that and cause a short. So I take my knife, I point away from the inner jacket, and I just cut up like that. I'm going to take that guy right off of there. So this white inner jacket, we're going to test that with an insulation resistance tester to make sure that we didn't poke any holes in that. So we want to be very careful that we did not do that. So now, they say use the lube. I don't agree. I think sometimes it tests poorly, and that brings us back up to here. So it adds that extra step of taking off the aluminum layer. So now we're going to push this into the kit. This is the biggest heater that will go in here, and it can be quite difficult to push in. One way to make it a little easier, and I have a video on this as well, is how to remove this little clip. This is what they call, this is for pull-out strength. So that adds a little resistance. I put this on the heating cable. This is our sealing grommet. And now it becomes considerably more easy to push this in. And we need to make sure that that goes all the way up to the end. You'll be able to see the white come in there, and you can actually see the heater on the end right there. So once that's all the way in, I'm gonna make sure we put that guy back in place. Line these tabs up, those little indents. Put the cover back on. And now we're going to tighten these screws. These are Torx 20, so we're going to go to our next page here. They want us to tighten those up. Now before I do that, I strip these guys back. All the electricians watching are swearing at me for not using strippers. I will not use this to actually carry current. This is just a demo. And then we're going to strip our ground as well. So I want to make sure that I made contact with the heating cable core in here. So I'm going to get my ohm meter. I'm going to set it to ohms. Check and make sure my leads work. Very low resistance. And then I'm going to grab each of these black wires. Presently, it shows an open because I haven't tightened those screws yet, right? So I'm going to take my Torx 20. I'm going to tighten each screw a little at a time. We don't want that plate to go down crooked or those skewers might not line up properly. So please don't use a screw gun. Tighten these down, and you'll feel a little resistance when it first hits the white inner jacket, but you have to keep going. You'll actually feel the bottom, and that's why we're using the meter, because we can actually see, if I put it so you can see, we'll actually see when that makes contact. I find a lot of time when I test these that, okay, there it goes. We've just made contact. We're going to make sure that gets down, not gorilla tight, but snug. You'll feel the end. All right, so we're connected. We know that our power kit has made connection. This is a very short piece, maybe 5-6 feet long, 230 ohms. Okay, excellent. So we've made that connection. Now we have to continue with our instructions. They talk about mounting this, bringing in the flex to house our power cable. You would power it up. You might have the double, but it's showing mounting on the stand. For the single power, you fold these two up and it comes through here. So you'd put that on up through there like that. And for the double or the triple, you pop that on and that comes up through the middle like that. So we're going to do an end. I'd already prepped this, but we want to make sure we got a clean end. So we're going to cut that nice and square. We're going to go to our end seal instructions. And it wants us to take off 1 inch. So cut that outer. We're going to measure it and mark it. For the video, since we're not actually going to use this, we're going to go about 1 inch. But please measure. I'm going to, again, cut light until I get to the end. I can go a little harder. Pull this guy off. Leave that. Now, this black stuff in here is the heating cable core, so we don't want any metal touching that end. So it has us remove the braid. So we're going to fold that braid back. Just one braid can make it measure incorrectly. Cut all that back. And just making sure that we unravel it all the way. We get all those off of there. Cut pretty clean. Get our knife. Cut off that mylar piece. All right, we make sure no metal is anywhere near that end. And we take our end seal filled with the gel and we're going to push that right on the end. Pushed in good. Sorry, my head in the way. So there you go, all done. And then you're going to test the insulation resistance by going from the bus wires to the braid, and you're going to do that at, on this meter would be 500, 1000, and then 2500 volts. And you want to make sure when you test it, this starts at an M and then it goes to G. It's got to be at least 1000 mega ohms or 1 giga ohm. In this case, we're right up to 200 giga ohms. And there you go. So when you're doing a system installation, I suggest that you start at a power kit, leave your connection on the two blacks, look for resistance on ohms. All right, we know that we connected this little short piece. Every time you add a section onto that, keep watching this meter and make sure it drops each time. It should be a lower and lower resistance as you go. All right, check the comments. There's a link to the website for testing tips and tricks and other videos. Thanks.